these guys get enough. They have 93,000 subscribers.
That's not enough.
I have one, and it's actually my other channel. Hey, you're watching the MTGeez Spellcast. I'm Matt Pinnell. Matt Marino is not joining us today. We're doing a special little side episode, not related to Magic the Gathering. I'm here with special guest, Jeff Bernardo.
Hello,
Jeff.
how's it going?
Today we're talking about what we look for in games, and specifically tabletop games. Jeff and I have been playing tabletop games pretty much our entire adult lives.
10 years.
Yeah, and we have a lot of opinions on board games in general, so we have some cool stuff we want to talk about today. What are some of the early games that we were playing? I want to first, when we started, really getting into tabletop games, didn't it start kind of with zombies?
Yes,
right?
Anthony had the game Zombies. We had the street levels and the different buildings you can go in and out of, ammo and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And it had at least 10 expansions as far as I can remember. It was the high school, the movie theater, or something like that.
That was the best.
And it just kept adding and adding, and it took up the whole room. We had to play on the floor.
We would play on the floor,
yeah. It was
as you would explore the town, you would reveal new tiles to continue adding on to it, and so that game had a lot to offer, and I think that's gonna be something I'm gonna probably go back to in our discussion, things I want to mention. That
was definitely one of the first ones, and I think maybe Doom
was another one that in our early collections that we were going through.
And then I think and I think after that it just kind of wildfire spread.
Yeah, then we started going wide. We spent a lot of time on a couple of games, and then we started going wide, where sometimes we play a game once and then
we were like, this sounds interesting. I like it.
So we have a couple of things that we want to hit. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what we look for in games. I think a logical place to start is with the goal that a game has a clear objective that you're striving to reach. And when it has a good goal that you can keep in mind, it helps you to kind of stay focused and to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. So that's why when I'm teaching a game, I like to start with the goal and then work backwards. Okay, you're trying to get to 10 victory points, or you're trying to find this item, or you're trying to defeat this enemy.
Yeah, you want to tell them what they're trying to achieve before you tell them how they achieve it.
Exactly. That way, everything that you tell them, everything that they learn with the game, it's with the context of the end goal.
Otherwise, you get, you're doing this followed by this, and they're like, well, why am I doing this?
Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
What is it all for?
It's like, shh.
Don't worry about it. Just memorize this long list of attributes. It's no, this is boring. Then it becomes a chore. You don't want your game to be a chore. You want the fun to be in plain sight. You want it to be very apparent. So concrete goal. So the second thing we have here is compelling themes, because that's kind of it's the first thing that you're introduced to when you get a game. It's the first
right.
There's a lot that goes into packaging, and the theme is kind of should be put throughout the entirety of the game experience.
Does it supply?
Is it trying to represent a time in history? Is it trying to represent
an era in time? There we go. I had the words backwards.
Yeah, an era in time, or a particular fantasy world.
Fiction, non-fiction. Yep.
Yeah. Is it science fiction? Is it space? Is it Wild West? Is it we have some that are Haunted Mansion, and I've never been in conflict with a theme. I've never seen a theme to a game that I'm just oh, why do they do this?
Yeah, it's like Wild West. Psh, I don't want that. Get out. Nope.
I mean, some I like more than others, but that's not usually a breaking point for me. But something I do like to see is that the theme makes sense.
Right.
So one thing that I've heard, Splendor, I think you played maybe once, if
Splendor.
That was the one where you're picking up gems and you're buying cards.
Ooh, isn't it the little app phone game? Isn't it a Splendor app?
I had the Splendor.
It was Bejeweled or something like that.
I guess.
I don't know. I don't think I've played it.
You are earning victory points through buying gem cards, and then those gems provide you with the resources to buy more gem cards, and you start to kind of build a little an engine. It's like you're building an empire.
Right.
The theme there is the cards have like mines on them, and sometimes it has like you see like a jeweler on it, like, and so the theme is literally jewels and treasures, and,
mining,
yeah, and that sort of thing.
Mine shafts, mining, gold,
ships that are transporting these goods,
exactly, yeah.
And people have, I've heard that complained that the theme seems tacked on, but to me that actually seems very reasonable, because the whole time you're building up this empire, and this is the means to which your empire works. The mines that you own, the ships that you use to transport your goods. So, theme, I think, should be something that complements the game, that it makes sense.
It attracts you to it, and then you feel comfortable that it fits what you're doing during the game.
That it doesn't just feel stapled on.
Right.
Yeah. So, next thing we have is elegance in game mechanics. So, I don't know if you're going to have much that you want to say about that. For me, elegance in game mechanics is just that, well, for one thing, that the game mechanics might be doing something interesting or new, or doing something in a new way, that when you see some kind of mechanic and it takes you back and you're like, wow, that's actually pretty cool. I like that. I mean, good games can hinge on a good game mechanic.
Right.
Where you want to go back to that game where you have to trade this to get that, and, and then,
I feel with game mechanics is that, like, let's say it's a card game, for example. If the cards you purchase, buy, obtain, whatever, blend well together. Like, you can spend this to get this, and then you have another card that says, well, when you achieve this, do this. Oh, so
it all works together.
Yeah, it blends and makes one kind of like a combo setup. And otherwise, if you have another thing where it's a mechanic that's like, oh, you can do this because of this, and it's like, wait, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Do I need to do this? No, you don't have to. It's optional. So why bother?
Yeah, where it feels needless.
Yeah, it's like, I don't have to, but should I?
Yeah, nothing should feel like it was added on in post. Like, it should all feel like it was all part of the same story in the first place. I guess if I had to think, just off the top of my head, maybe a mechanic would be in Smash Up, the bases have effects that happen, and they might happen when the base enters, or it might happen when the base is destroyed, or it might happen like while you're on the base. And I think that's interesting. I think I could call that a mechanic and feel comfortable with it. That the bases have some sort of an impact on the game state. And it feels right because it goes along with the theming. The bases will do something that is reflective of the faction that they're part of. So, wasn't it something like ninjas had something where they can kind of like show up out of nowhere? Didn't the ninjas in Smash Up?
I think so. If a base is scoring, they can tag on real quick.
Yeah, stuff like that. And it was playing into the theme of that faction, and so that's a way in which the game mechanics seem to make sense. And it kind of played with also the game cards.
Also makes sense why most of the ninja bases you get more points if you're second, so you can kind of beat who's ever in third, but not win.
Yeah, you're not trying to have the most on there. You're just trying to sneak in some extra points there. A mechanic is like a set of rules that performs a function.
I'm trying to think.
The game mechanics are like how you navigate the game state, like how you're affecting the game. One mechanic in Thunderstone is that there's lighting, and each spot in the dungeon has less and less light, and you need light in order to prevent loss of attack power. That's a mechanic. That's a game mechanic where it's a rule, but it's also kind of shaping the nature of the game so that there's this reliance on light. It's elegant because it adds a little bit of complexity, but it seems right. It blends with the game. It doesn't feel shoehorned in. It feels like it's just doing a better job of emulating a real life scenario. You're going into a dungeon and it's dark and you're at a disadvantage if you get into a scuffle.
Yeah.
So that's what I look for in good mechanics. It's like something that feels right to the theme and to what the rest of the game is doing, and something that adds interesting nuance to the game. So next thing is replay value.
Yes.
But something that adds to replay value is if there's multiple modes to winning the game, different paths you can take. This is especially true in games with factions. Like with Court of the Dead, you can go bone, flesh, or spirit, and each one is a viable way that you can win the game. And they all have their own flavor to them, their own like sense of like what they're good at doing.
Right.
So there's replay value there. You're like, oh, next time I play, I'm gonna do bone.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
your Anthony just does bone every time.
Another thing is that, like, I want to say part of replay value is also the number of players thrown into it. Like, it changes,
Ooh.
like, 2 people, then 3 people, then 4. How different does that change per time you play?
That's really good. I didn't think of that. Yeah, when you have a game that can support multiple numbers of players, it's different depending
Like,
on the number of players
Deception, the game we played a few times, can hold up, I think it's either 16 or 20 players. That's a lot. We don't know that many people.
That's a party game.
Yeah, we don't know that many people.
Yeah. We should get friends.
Come join us.
Please, if you're listening to this podcast, first off, welcome. You're the only one. And be our friend. Come play games with us. Okay. Another thing, a big part, so variance in players, that's just built in, like random number generation, like rolling dice.
Yeah, it's
drawing
like
cards.
Like if you can pick the same character every single time and it's different every time you play. Like King of Tokyo, you can pick the same character, but are you going to get the same cards? Are you going to get the same evolutions?
The evolutions might come out in a different way, and even if it's not about the evolutions, you just have variance in the dice rolls. You have variance in the cards that come out you could purchase. There's that game. No 2 games are the same with that. I mean, after a while, you kind of know the gist of it. But it's games like that, games like Tokyo, and we're going to talk more about Tokyo in a little bit. But games like that are like a commodity. I think that's something else that I look for in a game, that it's a commodity. That a good game, if it's got just the right amount of complexity, is like a flavor. That's it. Okay. Follow me. A flavor, right? And it's like a dish or a food that has too many flavors might not be that palatable because it's going too far. It's overreaching.
Yes.
And if it doesn't have enough flavors, well, then that's just an ingredient. You don't really have an entire dish there.
Yep.
So a good game, one that's elegant, is one that has just the right number of flavors in the right combination, and it knows what it is.
Right.
The game length is right. A dish that's too big or too small. No, this one's just the right size, right temperature. Everything is well proportioned. That's a good game.
We need all board games to be Gordon Ramsay approved.
Exactly. This is absolute garbage. When I think of Tokyo as commodity because the flavor of Tokyo, and this is why I talk so much about the base set of Tokyo, the flavor of Tokyo is roll dice, punch face.
Okay, Anthony, calm down.
Roll dice, punch face. Oh, here's a card. You could buy that too. In fact, I kind of like the idea of doing like the discard cards a lot because it's just like one and done. Like, get out of my way. Oh, I get.
What am I gonna do now?
2 extra damage to everybody.
Yes.
I love. And when you add too many parts to that, you muddy the flavor. I feel like, and it stops being this like, are you in the mood for a Big Mac? Yeah, I want a Big Mac. Do you want a Big Mac and also a 6-course meal? I don't know if I'm in the mood for a 6-course meal.
Right. Yeah.
But I know a Big Mac. I know what that tastes like. I know what the experience of a Big Mac is. I kind of want to go get a Big Mac now.
No, you don't.
The last thing with replay value is solvability.
Yes.
So if you have a game that is very predictable, easily solved, you might enjoy playing it the first time, maybe the second time, and then after that, if there's not much to it, if it's just a puzzle that needs to be figured out, once you solve that puzzle, that's kind of it. There's nothing left.
I feel like games that have one of the major parts being dice can't be solved because the dice are always going to be random. You can't force them.
Only to an extent. So when you introduce dice, you introduce probability, and even though you can't know what the outcome is going to be because you're reliant on the roll of dice, you can understand, and some people better than others, you can understand the likelihood of something happening. And so it becomes about making decisions that will get you the closest to having a chance to win. And that you can solve. You can figure out, oh, well, this character, if we're talking about like Dice Throne,
Right.
this character has the most consistent attacks that, you know, you don't have to rely on the dice all the time. Like, they're good no matter what you roll. You can figure that out. Dice Throne might be solvable, but you mitigate that by having the dice. Because even if you can kind of figure out what the best characters are, that doesn't mean you've won.
Right.
You might pick the character that's the strongest, but you still have to rely on good rolls. You have to make good decisions. Yeah, variance adds to the replay value, and having it not easily solved adds to the replay value. How do we classify games? Or you could say categorize games. And I guess what I mean by that is, like, how would we divide up a pool of games? Like, when we're talking about them, like, these games are long, grindy games. These games are short, in-between games. So those are the kind of things I just wanted to...
Yeah, and that's just two categories. These honestly
Yeah.
can break down into, like, you know, the ingredients in a chef's kitchen to the point where it's just like, all right, he's got his spices there, his vegetables there. It's so many ways you can look at it.
Yeah. And what I was talking about before, like, you have hot dishes and cold dishes. You don't choose one over the other.
Are you sure this is not a food?
We're talking about food a lot, and we just came from Dunkin', so we shouldn't really be hungry. So I just wanted to kind of like talk about how we classify games, how we organize games, and it's good to be cognizant of these kind of like these categories, because it lets you, maybe we can hone in on like what we enjoy.
Right.
And I think we kind of already have that figured out.
Right.
So the first thing we have here is difficulty, which I like to use the skiing analogy. Green circle is easy, blue square is medium, black diamond is hard, and then for very difficult would be double black diamond.
Unfortunately, these difficulties aren't like stapled on the box.
Yeah, no, there's no. This is like this is just like terms that people have used.
Right.
It's nothing official, and actually, the more we talk about it, the harder it becomes to pin down.
Exactly.
And we'll get to that.
Because this can be opinionated entirely, because some people pick up things easy, some people don't. And,
yeah,
you know, what one person says, oh, this is the most difficult game ever, the other person says, are you sure? Because I, like, play this all the time, and it's easy for me.
Yeah. So take it with a grain of salt. I would say Green Circle is a game that you could teach a child easily enough. And a Black Diamond is something, you know, serious players or enthusiasts, people that play these games all the time. Blue Square is like, and I think the Blue Square is probably the largest category of games.
Right.
It's like the casual, like, you know, you go to a friend's house and they like to do games and stuff, and these are the sort of games that you'll play with them.
It's not so simple you're going to get bored, but it's not so complex where you don't want to play it.
Exactly. You could pick it up, you enjoy it, it keeps your attention. Green Circle is more like the family-friendly games. Blue Square is like, you know, basically the hot sellers.
Yeah.
But I would argue Green Circles can be very good, and I think these are good for in-between games.
Yes.
Which kind of ties into, I'm going to just kind of briefly mention these two bullets, is complex versus simple. I would say that, like, on the simple side, you have the Green Circles, and on the complex are the Black Diamonds. But we can get into that more. And then time spent, which is like how long or grindy a game is versus how quick and light it is. So I think we should, as far as our game group goes, we should probably look more for good in-between games that you play in 15-20 minutes, simple, like, you know, 3-rule games. Like, those are really nice. I want to get more of those. So we have some examples here. We have, again, examples that we kind of gingerly, tentatively chose for our Green Circle, Blue Square, Black Diamond. So for Green Circle, we have The Wizard Always Wins, King of Tokyo, Ticket to Ride. Actually, I would say Ticket to Ride is probably the most prominent and most well-known game. It's been around for a while, and Ticket to Ride, which I'll just describe super briefly, is that you have a map of, well, for the original game is a map of the United States, and you are railroad pioneers, and you're building railroads going across the country. You start off with train ticket cards that represent the tracks that the cities that you're trying to connect, and throughout the game you're trying to lay down tracks that ultimately connect those cities to earn the point values on those cards. And then you earn points along the way for completing other tickets and things like that. It's a very simple premise, and the turns are very short. You're picking up cards, you're playing down tracks, or you're getting new tickets, and that's it. Like, that's literally, I've just described the entire game. Perfect example of a green circle.
Yeah.
Great game. Good for any age. And it's definitely one of the types of games that I break out for any group that comes over. They ask about Ticket to Ride. So it's a commodity. An elegant game is one that, like, it's a distinct, memorable, palatable flavor.
It's like salt. Every food needs it.
Yes! It's like salt. Every food needs it. Ticket to Ride is the salt. It's the spice of life. We could also talk about King of Tokyo and Wizard Always Wins briefly.
Yeah, King of Tokyo is one of my favorite games. Basically, it's Godzilla the board game. You basically have a series of different monsters, and the objective is to basically be the king of the hill, or in this case, the king of Tokyo. You can achieve this by either doing last man standing and beating everyone to death, or you could achieve this by obtaining the most victory points. Either way goes.
Yeah, you can... I'm the type of player that I fall into styles of play that I like to do. I for example, I love drawing cards and stuff like that. And there are cards in King of Tokyo that do just that. But I always find that I have to play differently every time I play King of Tokyo, because it's always just different scenarios coming up and different cards revealing themselves. And then other players are playing differently too, so I have to react to that as well. And it's always interesting.
It's great because it can support up to 6 players. It's a little redundant when you're playing with 2 people because it's kind of like one-sided.
Really does want more players.
Yeah, 3. I'd say 3 is a nice, healthy minimum.
Yeah.
Up to 6 is a lot of fun because you have no clue what's going to happen where. Especially since there's ways that you can attack everybody, ways you only attack your neighbor. So you don't know what's going to happen unless you foresee it, which is, I'm not going to say impossible, but depending on who they're playing. And I'd say between King of Tokyo and its sister game, King of New York, there's almost 20 characters you can choose from.
Yeah, it's become like a pretty interesting, like, expanded universe where you can kind of get into character with it, and if that's the sort of thing that you're drawn to, like, this game has it in spades. Another thing I wanted to mention about King of Tokyo that I think is really great, especially with people with, like, a little bit shorter attention spans. King of Tokyo, the turns are short. You're not taking that much time. You roll dice 3 times, and then you might buy a card or 2. And then your turn's over. Like, there's not really that much going on during your turn.
Yep.
And so the turn order moves around the table in a pretty good fashion, pretty quickly, that you're not sitting around waiting for your turn. And then, for better or for worse, things happen on other people's turns that affect you. Like, if the person that's in Tokyo is attacking, the damage goes to all players that are not in Tokyo. So you have to keep track of your health, and you have to adjust your health. Even if it's not your turn, you still have to be part of the game. Which, it's like, it sounds like it's a bad thing. Oh, you have to take damage while it's not your turn.
Yeah, it's good to
but
be.
But it ends up being like, it keeps you involved.
Yes, it's good to be involved when you're not taking your turn, so that way you're not like, all right, distracted by going
on your phone,
walking away from the table. Who knows what reason?
Yeah. Where is that guy? Oh, he's in the bathroom. I thought he said he was taking a call. He's taking a call in the bathroom. I don't know.
What? Nature's call.
Nature's call. Nature called.
Hello.
Oh god. The Wizard Always Wins. It's a little bit more involved to talk about, but
and you pick a character. That character then has an action, and you follow the actions in turn order, 1 through the lowest number to the highest number, and then that person goes first the next turn. So let's say they pick the Queen. She's number 1. They're going to go first the next turn.
But the Queen doesn't do anything else.
Right.
The only thing the Queen serves to do is to change up the turn.
Right, so the higher the number, the more powerful the character, but the later you go the next turn.
Yeah.
So it's a balancing act of what do you want to do.
Yeah, because each round you're choosing a new character.
Exactly.
So you trade off, you go back and forth between having a powerful effect versus going sooner in the turn order.
Exactly, and there's tokens involved that let you get the rewards, but the main point of the game is to be the wizard and pull your own gem out of the bag. Hence the name of the game, The Wizard Always Wins.
So, the reason why I think that this is Green Circle, and this was just like my gut feeling that this was a Green Circle, but that I think about it, the game starts off very simple, and it doesn't get more complex, but it starts to change because more things get added to the bag, things get removed from the bag. And you can
really
kind of
change the
see
rules.
it doesn't change the rules, but you can see how the game is changing, like the state of it is changing slowly as it goes. So you can understand, you can keep up with like how you're doing in the game. Like, okay, I know I put a couple of gems in the bag, but everyone else put a couple of gems in the bag. Do I need to add more? Do I need to try to start pulling from the bag as the wizard? What do I do? Like, I still think that more variability in games with children is better because they're going to rely on that variability. They're going to rely on the random chance that they get lucky. More so than their cunning. Little Timmy doesn't know how to like be cutthroat and get ahead. So Blue Square is the next category up. I have here Catan, Legendary Marvel, Dice Throne, and Clank as our examples for Blue Square. Catan is very, very well known. It's been around for a very long time. So I don't have to go over the rules. But I know, Jeff, you feel that it's more complex. I feel that it's less complex. It's hard to say. Legendary.
So Legendary Marvel, there's a series of Legendary games, but we specifically have the Marvel one. And it's a deck-building game, if you've never heard of it. And you're basically playing as the heroes through the Marvel Universe, and you're fighting off all the nemesis. Loki, Thanos, Galactus, you name it, they're in the game. You recruit heroes from the HQ, you fight off bad guys, and you then, like I said, try to kill the nemesis. It's a little bit more complex than I'm making it sound, but I'm not trying to give you every detail right now.
Yeah. I think the thing that makes a game Blue Square is that it has sufficient depth, but it's accessible enough that it's
not over in like 20 minutes, but you can still learn it reasonably easy.
Exactly. And maybe this is true of most games, that games should they should start simple and the complexity should come through the gameplay. But that's certainly true for Blue Squares. Catan, you start off and there's a map and you're placing 2 settlements, and it doesn't even really matter where you place those settlements. Like, there's no place you're going to go that's going to offer you nothing. Legendary, you start off with just a 10-card deck, and it's only 2 different cards.
12.
Okay, 12, right, 12. And it's recruit points and attack power.
Yep.
It's all you have to pay attention to in the starting deck.
It does
and
get
then
a little
slowly add complexity as you go.
Yes, exactly. It's another color system game with icons for like sensory, stealth, things like that.
You're combining cards to great effect. Different heroes have different numbers of those factions, I guess you would say, of cards. And so heroes can combine together for effects.
Well, what do you guys call them in Magic? Your color groups? Are they factions?
Maybe Affinity is better for Marvel. In Magic the Gathering, we just call it color. Blue, red, white.
I guess you do the same thing. What color is this hero?
We have creature types.
They do say non-colored heroes in the game. They do actually...
Yeah. In fact, I think we talk about it. We just refer to it as color in Legendary too. Mm-hmm. But the fact of the matter is, you start off simple and you build complexity as you go.
But Dice Throne, it's a Kickstarter game, so you might not find it as easily in stores or online.
True. You're trying to be the last man standing. You have multiplayers, and you're performing attacks on other people. And the attack that you do is based on the dice that you roll. You have a character card that has an attack for each, kind of like Yahtzee, every combination of...
Yep.
Not every combination, but different combinations of dice rolls that you might get. And some are more or less likely than others. And so, you might want to go for like a powerful attack, but you have to roll a certain combination of dice to get it.
What you want to do versus what you end up doing, completely 2 different things.
Yeah. Now, you get 3 rolls, but, you only have a limited amount of control over what you can make the outcome. So, it's interesting what the game does. It takes a level of variability and
strategy.
Yeah, and it kind of blends them together.
Yeah.
Like you can attempt to do certain actions, but you have to rely on getting a little bit of luck.
Really fun game if you have a lot of opposing heads in your group.
I gotta say, Dice Throne has been one of the games in recent years that has been a group favorite. People have been just asking for it every time we're all hanging out. Like, there's inevitably one or two people that are looking for.
We'll
Dice
show
Throne.
it to them for the first time, and then the next time we show up, they're like, "Do you guys bring Dice Throne?" And like, "Whoa, you like it that much? I lost my ass, but freaking, oh my god, yeah!"
And talking about how I feel like it's a blue square. It's accessible. You know, like you start off. You pick your character card. You could just pick on based on like what you like. Oh, do you like cowboys, ninjas, vampires? Do you like knights?
Yeah.
Do you like wizards? Do you like alchemists? Like you just pick something based on what you like.
They've got all fictional categories covered.
They even have on the character card. It tells you the complexity. So you just, like I said, you start off with your character card, and you start off with a couple of cards in hand. There's a deck aspect as well. You draw every turn, but you don't have that much that you have to think about when you begin the game. You know, it gets to your turn, you roll. Oh, do you have anything? Check your character card. You're not putting too much on the player.
So to give a brief synopsis of Clank.
So Clank is a dungeon crawler. You have a board that you are navigating and a game deck that you're building as well. The point of the game is that you're an explorer. You're trying to get down into the dungeon depths to grab some relics and get those back up to the surface. And then the relics and other items that you get along the way are worth victory points. And at the end of the game, the person, assuming they're alive, with the most victory points wins the game. And so you're starting off, you get it. Okay, you're in a dungeon. You move around the dungeon. There's a deck that, based on what you draw, it tells you how much you can move and how much damage you deal to monsters and sort of things. There's not that much that you have to think about when you begin that game. You can just jump in and play, and the complexity comes through just the things that happen, the directions that you take, and the sort of deck that you build based on the cards that reveal, in the, for you to buy. So it's accessible, but it has depth, and everything in the game, to me at least, feels like it's there for good reason, and that they all kind of tie in together to make one cohesive flavor.
But so now we have our Black Diamonds.
Black Diamond. So these, crossing from Blue Square into Black Diamond, this is now where it's like players that are not so much casual, they are players that are more enthusiast.
Right.
People that
they want to invest.
They are
more.
tabletop gamers.
Yeah, that's actually where I should be going. Is that they want to invest their time. They plan to sit down for at least an hour
gathering
or more.
every week. They're hanging out with friends.
Right.
And
Yeah.
They
know when this game hits the table, they're spending their minimum an hour on the table.
This isn't the thing that you break out with family that don't really know games. Like this is not the stuff that you introduce people.
I mean, who knows? Your family could be. You know.
Might.
Yeah. So.
But we have some examples here.
We'll start with a classic.
Betrayal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people know this game, Betrayal at the House on the Hill. Probably don't have to explain much, but, it's a house building game. Or not.
It's a house building game. You are... It's a dungeon crawler.
Essentially, yeah. But you're building a house while doing it.
You're building it's a very nice house.
Yeah,
well, some of the rooms are wrecked.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're going through a quote-unquote dungeon crawler by exploring the rooms of a house.
It's a haunted house.
Yes. Each room is a tile that may or may not have an event, item, or omen in it.
Yes.
And these things can be good things, they can be bad things, probably are bad things.
The important thing, the reason why Jeff said it's a house builder is because as you explore, you uncover the house. Because you start off with only the main floor.
Yeah.
And as you leave...
No, not even the main floor. The main hallway.
The main hallway.
Which is just three tiles.
I'm sorry, yes. The main
hallway.
landing,
Yeah, which is just 3 rooms, the foyer.
And then, basically the staircase. Mm-hmm. And it's not that the house isn't there, it's that you haven't discovered it yet. So as you leave a room, you will grab a tile for the correct floor, and you'll place it, and that's the room that you've entered. And so, going back to our discussion about replayability, this game has a lot of replayability because it's going to be different every time that you play it.
Now, what's really cool is it could be completely random. You could literally walk in the front door of this house, turn right. Oh, the kitchen?
I was just thinking kitchen.
Followed by
really the discussion about food.
Yeah, followed by... It could be the kitchen, followed by the courtyard.
I love that about this game. It makes me think of Dark Souls, and in that it's spacey wacy. To borrow from... What did you do? As Jeff touched, he just fiddled with the power cable and the screen went black, and it looked like he just shut off the computer. It's spacey wacy. You're going through a haunted house that it's messing with your mind, and you go through. You walk out of one room and you enter into that same room again, and you're kind of just like, okay, sure, why not? It is a haunted house. Didn't we have a game where we kept on finding all the rooms that connect to other rooms again?
Yes, so I was going to say...
Every room connected to every other room
right,
somehow.
So you can have a game where it's impossible to get through the house because you have to go through, room, speed check, might check,
yeah.
And then it's like, okay, I can't move because I keep rolling bad rolls. Or you could have the game we had most recently where it's like, okay, you walk 2 rooms, secret passage, to another secret passage, to a third secret passage.
Yeah, no, every room was 2 spaces away from every other room.
We were sitting there like, okay, this room is 3 spaces apart, but if I go 2 spaces that way, take the secret passage on this way.
It was one of the best games we've played of Betrayal because it was so flavorful. I could just... This is another thing that I look for in a game. I know we keep on coming back to things that we look for in games, but where you just are enthralled and you were in the game. I felt like I was in this haunted house that was just messing with us.
Yeah.
And you go into a room and you're back in a room from before and you're like, what just happened?
Yeah.
It's like the Scooby-Doo bit where they're running back and forth in the hallway
exactly.
and they're coming out of weird doors.
Yes.
It's like that.
Now, what makes this game so even more and further replayable than it is normally is the fact that not only can you randomly distribute tiles and it can be never the same layout, there's exactly 100 different end game mechanics to it.
Yeah, there's a trader mechanic.
Yes, may or may not. Some of them do.
Sometimes usually there's a trader mechanic.
But there's always the games against you, whether it's a player or the game itself. Most of the times it's a player, but there are some instances where the game itself is against everyone. And that's why it's called Betrayal at the House on the Hill. You're all a bunch of friends going up to this house to explore it, and then all of a sudden someone finds a candlestick in a gymnasium, and boom, they're Freddy Krueger. That you don't know, or a giant Ouroboros is escaping from the cellar.
I don't think we've ever done the same scenario twice.
Exactly.
So as far as replay value goes, this game is a prime example of a game that has plenty of replay.
Yeah, it set the bar.
We still break it out, and once in a while we're like, okay, you want to do Betrayal? Yeah, of course.
And there's actually a lot. I'm not saying there's a lot of rules, but there are those things that can be very misleading.
The reason why I feel that this is in Black Diamond's territory is that even though it's accessible in the onset, you just start off, here's a hallway. Okay, what's your character? You can move 3 spaces. Go ahead and move, go wherever. Okay, here's a tile, and that's your turn. There's really not too much to it. The way that this breaches into the Black Diamond territory is with the trader mechanic. When you get to that halfway point of the game where things change and based on the game's flow, trader becomes revealed, you now have a sub-game that you have to learn. The trader goes off to a separate room so that they can read, their own manual. And then the remaining players have to read a scenario from the...
It basically becomes like D&D, the DM versus the players.
Exactly. You have 2 distinct groups of players. And you have to learn this sub-game in order to win, whether you're the trader or you're one of the survivors. And that does add a level of complexity. Every time it's a different scenario, and you have to learn a new game basically. So if not for that, I would say this is Blue Square, but because of it, I would say it's Black Diamond.
It's basically 2 games in one. It really is.
It's almost like an infinite number of games. Whoa!
Now, another one. This one we just recently got. We haven't had too much playability with it.
This is another Kickstarter.
It is another Kickstarter game. It's called Court of the Dead: Mourner's Call. And it separates into 3 factions: bone, spirit, and flesh. And if you think about it, that's how the dead people work. It's a point-based game.
Yeah, you're trying to get the most points, but how you earn those points are different depending on the faction that you choose at the beginning. And that's important to
yes.
set.
Now, even though there are only 3 factions, it is up to 5 players. It's a large-scale game. But the actual mechanics of the game and learning it is fairly simple. But there's just a lot going on. And that's why we put this in the Black Diamond category, is because you can't just, open it up, play the game, and win. There's a lot to it. Not only are you fighting other players for controls of areas to get points and this and that, you're also fighting the game.
Jeff, I love it. That beautifully played. But the next is that that level beyond, to go one step further. Super Saiyan 3!
Yes. So this category is the double black diamond. This is when you're going to get the group together and you're going to order wings or pizza or something. You're sitting down.
This sounds so good.
Right? You're going to sit down for a minimum 2, maybe 3 hours depending on the game.
Yeah.
You need to be aware. You are mentally and physically aware. This game is not going to be over quick. If you have somewhere to be, don't play this game.
Now you are a little bit romanticizing this category, but I do see where you're going with it. These are the games that are demanding of attention and to be thorough with them. The type of games that you kind of need to know all of the rules before you start playing.
Yeah, these games have an entire gameplay's length of rules before you even play the game.
Yeah, these are not the type of games where you can jump in and learn it as you go. You'll end up not knowing what to do, and you'll end up making decisions that don't help you into the game.
Usually you're referring to the rules while playing these as well.
Yeah. These are for like the uber nerds, which we are. So some examples that we have. I'm going to start with Doom, the board game.
One of our favorites.
It's the first that we started with.
Yep.
It's a campaign style game. It's not even that difficult to play, but it's definitely lengthy.
Yes. There's a lot of mechanics involved with dice rolling, the different guns, the different units.
Yeah.
And it's a storyline game, as he said, that has a DM involved with it. So the DM is essentially, if anyone's ever heard of Doom, the actual video game or anything like that, Doom Guy, I'm sure it's a popular thing right now online. The DM is essentially playing as the invaders, and you're all, as you know, on Mars, and you're trying to go through and surviving the circles of hell. Or I shouldn't say the circles, just hell itself.
It's a great day. It's a great time.
Right? I know. Who said, I'm going to walk into space...
Survive the circles of hell.
It's like you're walking into a space station, all of a sudden, shit.
Oh, we're in hell today.
That's a hell demon.
It's a taxing game. I love it. I really want us to finish it one day. It's the type of game where if you have a girlfriend, it's hard to make the time for this game. That's basically it. It's exactly what we're facing right now. Co-host. Where are you, Matt? Where are you, Matt? The other example, Who Goes There, that we... Now, is this a Kickstarter too, I think, Who Goes There?
Actually,
I think it is.
I don't know, honestly. But this is another game where it's a survival game. Everyone's working together. There's no...
You're at, like, the North Pole.
Something. You're in some
you're
in Arctic place.
You're in a desolate winter.
Isn't there a movie called The Thing like that, where there's a virus? And,
yeah.
Yeah, it's basically a thing.
It's based on that.
Yeah, it's a very similar to The Thing, where they're all in an Arctic area. They're trying to survive the winter. Harsh winds. They got to build stuff. Food is an issue. Sleeping is an issue.
Wild animals.
Yep. And then there's also now the fact that there's a potential virus.
Yeah, there's a monster and
If you at any point obtain a wound, you may be infected with this virus. They could pick and choose who they infect. And that's actually what makes it really cool, is because the infecting player can make it so he wins, so no one wins, so he loses. It's a really interesting mechanic. But there's like 6 different decks of cards to pick from. You have to figure out where you're going to stand, how long you're going to stand there for. Do I need
there's
food?
Different zones on the board.
But there's also a lot of different characters that help you. There's 8 different characters to choose from, and each one is special in their own way. There's a builder, there's a hunter, there's a doctor, there's a meteorologist who has a flamethrower for some reason.
Yeah, this is truly a double black diamond in its level of complexity and how many mechanics there are that you have to keep in mind as you navigate the game. Because there's the board, and what zone you're in determines the type of actions that you can take and which decks you have access to. You have the 5 different decks on the board, and then the 1 deck that your character has.
Yeah.
You have your character card, which gives you other abilities, but you could also upgrade it by leveling up. Mm-hmm. And then there's weapons that you can get and item cards that you can use to make other weapons and items.
Basically, each
There's
mechanic in the rulebook has its own page.
Yeah. And I love it. Jeff and I mean, like, we love the minutia of these games. They're this is what you would call grindy. There's a lot of little things to kind of get through.
Usually, if we want a game where we want to invest something into, let's work together, let's get something done, it's probably going to be this game, Doom, or maybe even Court of the Dead. We'll go back a little bit, but...
Yeah. And there's the trader mechanic. There's You're trying to find objects that help you escape at the end of the game.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah, there's so many little parts.
Once you complete all rounds of the game, there's now the escape round where the captain of the team has to decide who he trusts. And that's bringing back politicking. You know, you have to kind of convince the captain of the team who, if you're good or bad. And who knows, the captain himself may be infected. And it's a real, like, you're working together, but at the very end turn, you're like, shit, what's real, what's fake?
Yeah, a lot of tension. I mentioned a couple times about being a commodity and the flavor of a game and, like, it being a distinct flavor, you know? And Who Goes There does achieve that. It is, like, very flavorful, and it conveys a certain feeling. Like, when you're playing the game, you feel like you're part of a team in this you know, winter wasteland.
Oh, yeah.
And you feel the tension of, like, you know, are you infected? Can I trust you? And,
because
you know, am I going to get into a scuffle that I can't win? My health is low. That, you know, do we have enough to, you know, operate the helicopter?
Like, you could be at full health, walk outside to search the deck out there, then on someone's next turn, the door breaks and you can't get back inside. Don't ask me how that works. But the door breaks, you can't get back inside. You're now stuck outside. You could die before your next turn happens, and that's it.
And every part of the game, even though there are a lot of parts, the more complexity you add to a game, I mean, it's there so that you can more closely emulate, like, a real-life situation. Although, you know, this is obviously a fanciful situation, you know, with a monster and everything, but, like...
I think it's pretty real minus the monster.
Yeah, minus the monster, it's pretty real. You know, like... You know, for explorers who are in, like, these, like, far off places, like, they do have to
with hazardous
concern themselves with hazards. Yeah, with animals and surviving the winds.
So it actually gives you a learning experience. Like, these people who do this for a living. I feel like I can
go to the North Pole tomorrow.
All right,
really.
Calm down, Skippy. Santa Claus is just waiting for us now. But yeah, no, we think about, like, people who actually have done this for a living who have died just going out to exploring because they're walking, you know, just to go get a fish for their dinner.
But to contrast that, and I know I've been, like, hating on this game. I'm sure there's other games that we could pick out today that... like what?
Mage Knight.
But Endogenesis.
Ah, yes. Kickstarter game.
Now, I haven't played it enough, obviously, but I've seen it played one game, and I've played it another game, and I still feel like that game is, like, needlessly complicated. It's not even that complicated. It's not as complicated as this.
No.
But it feels too complicated because the game mechanics do not correlate back to the theme. The theme is nebulous to begin with. And none of it, like, I don't understand even what's happening, you know? Like, none of it really makes sense to me. Maybe that's why I have trouble with that game, because I don't really know what it is I'm doing. So, the last game that we wanted to mention for Double Black Diamond, and we're going to do this game terrible.
We're sorry for anyone who is a fan of this game, but unfortunately, it treated us wrong.
Yeah, Mage Knight. I still believe, and maybe I still believe it hopelessly, that we will one day pick this game back up and play it for real. But Mage Knight is a game that co-host Matt Marino has.
Or had if he ever got rid of it.
I don't know if he still has it, to be honest. He might have burned it in a ritualistic fire. It's so complicated, and there's so many parts, and we thought we could kind of jump in. Like, we read the rules for like an hour, and then we were like, okay, I think we have enough that we can go off of. But it was so much, and it's so unique and so different from other games we've played that we could not gain traction. I know I couldn't.
Yeah, to clarify, this game, we set it up on a kitchen table that sits 6 people comfortably. It took up the entire table for setup.
Yeah.
Now, that's not much to say, because a lot of games do that. But at the same...
From the onset, it did, though.
Yeah.
It's not even like it grew to that size.
Now, here's the worst part. Each deck, each token, each figure had its own set of rules.
I think the tokens were double-sided, too.
Yeah. Everything had its own set of rules. And it made it complicated, because if you did this, something else happened, and you don't know why it happened. On top of the fact that if you died, you don't know why you died.
I'm all for games where the base of the game is simple, and then the complexity comes through the things that you interact with, like cards that you see and things that become that get added to the game as you progress. I think that's great because then you get the complexity at a rate that you can digest it easily. But this was like all the complexity was right there from the start, and we had to learn the entire game before we could even begin. And I ended up, you can die several times in this game. Like, you just get set back. It's not like you get kicked out of the game. But I died like a couple times, and I was so handicapped by this that I was basically, as far as I can tell, out of the game at that point, and it just stopped being fun for me.
Usually games that are on this scale should have a ramp of difficulty, where it starts out nice, and then it slowly or rapidly goes up to the point where, like, okay, now I understand this.
What if it does? What if what we played was the simple part of the game, and it only got more complex from there?
To be fair.
Oh, God.
So, again, that's a very poor example. But from what we felt like...
But no, you're right.
It felt like we were playing Dark Souls, the game. Like, you walk in, first boss. All right, restart.
Dark Souls is a game.
The board game. Dark Souls, the board game.
Dark Souls is now a board game.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind then.
Listen, when are we going to play that?
Never. But yeah, so it just felt like Mage Knight came out of the barrel, firing on all ends. Just hey, you're gonna die.
It's now our example of a double black diamond game that we could not break.
But in its defense, we should eventually go back and try it again. Now that we have
one day we will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just for now, it's kind of our redheaded stepchild where we're like, you get back in the corner.
We were joking that this is actually a triple black diamond game. Make a new category all its own. But to recap, what we look for in games, I guess just like well-designed.
I think
well-designed.
Obviously, everyone wants a well-designed game, but I think.
But what makes a good design?
I'm gonna give it in a heartfelt opinion.
Sure.
What I like in games, and you probably will pick up on this quickly. I like games that have a combo to them, where I can pull off a nice combo, and it just comes out of nowhere. Or even if you know what's going to happen, it's like, wow, how the hell do I stop this? Remember Yu-Gi-Oh! I played with the Insectors. It's like, all right, Jeff's turn. And then it's like, I'm going to do this. Oh, well, that's it. There goes my whole field. Tokyo, you get all these cards, and like one turn can last 10 minutes because I have all these combo cards. Things like that. That's what I like in games. When I can pull off some nice, amazing combo that people are like, how did you do that? What the hell? I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah, that is... Surprised you don't play more Magic then. But, the thing is to me is that I feel like combo is like one ingredient. It's like saying that you like things with bacon on it. Which I guess is a sentence.
Which I do.
That is, people
but also,
that.
Look at all the games we have. Tokyo, Marvel, Dice Stone. It kind of... Maybe not so much Dice Stone, but a lot of the easier games we have, they're combo. I can make a combo. Whether it has one or not, I can somehow
just like
find
when
something.
things come together, when you have all these pieces of the game that you know how to interact with them and you know how to best combine them to get something.
It's like with you, I feel like you like cards, you like games or decks that have draw power, you can flow through everything.
I really love deck builders. It's kind of like a crime.
Yeah,
we should play Dominion today.
Do you have Dominion?
I could get it. So, you like games that have the potential for combos, and that's understandable. And I think I like that too. I like something where there's potential for more. But I think I just like games that have a distinct feeling to them. A game that is a commodity. And that's what I look for in a game. So, I think that was somewhat of a productive conversation. I feel like we covered a lot of ground, went off on a lot of tangents, but that was really good.
Hopefully we intrigued your interest in some of these games that you guys...
Yeah, we brought up some really cool ones.
If you guys want, I'm sure in the future we'll have a few gameplays on a YouTube channel, as well as also if we don't have gameplay on a YouTube channel, there is plenty of these videos on YouTube itself. Hey baby, what's today's word of the day? It's commodity! Ah! This is a distance check to see how sensitive the mic is from a distance point, as I'm slowly turning around to see how it makes a difference in which I am facing.
That is a good test.